What is up, everyone? Silent Haven here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going back to 1998. We're going to New York. We're doing some of the sounds from Parasite Eve 1 for the PS1. I thought this is a pretty fitting shirt to wear. 100% electronica, New York. Shout out George Clanton. All right, we're doing another classic, Parasite Eve for the PS1. What can I say? It's a very unique game. There's not many games like it that mix JRPG elements with survival horror. I think it's really cool. There should be more games like this. I would love a remake or a reboot of the franchise would be awesome. But yeah, it's such a good game. The gameplay's fun. The atmosphere and environments are super cool. I just love the aesthetic of this game. I think it's so dope. Came out the same year as Resident Evil 2, which is pretty interesting, and some of the sounds are very similar. Just like the vibe of some of the tracks on this soundtrack. Between the classic survival horror soundtracks, it's Silent Hill, Resident Evil, and your Parasite Eve. I feel like it's pretty up there with the soundtrack in terms of, I guess, listenability. It's just got so many good songs on it. This soundtrack is very unique, I will say. It blends kind of a drum and bass, late 90s, early 2000s electronica with fucking opera. It's pretty sick. Like opera vocals over top of that is super unique and creative. But hey, make sure you guys like this video and subscribe if you're not already. And let's get into today's video. The composer on this game is Yoko Shimomura, and she's known for tons of games, Legend of Mana, Super Mario RPG, Street Fighter 2, fucking the list just goes on of amazing games with amazing soundtracks also that she's been a part of. So let's just check out some of her approach to this soundtrack, which is pretty interesting. In a number of ways, the game Parasite Eve was an experimental work. Not wanting to be outdone, I decided to try new things as well. The music isn't one bit straightforward. In other words, until now, I had written my music to express directly. Sad music was sad, light music was truly light, and this was what I was best at. I would let the music I wrote reflect my own mental state as I wrote it. This time, I felt I wanted to step back and restrain myself, more abstract, which is to say emotionless, I suppose. Maybe this way I could bring out the game's atmosphere more. As it turned out, Aya replies with ... very often, and she never really laughs or becomes sad. So I was able to bring out the atmosphere just as I intended, and I am satisfied with my work. So yeah, she went for more of an experimental on-the-fly method of composing, as she said. Yeah, such a unique soundtrack. The opera electronica is, you can't find anything else like that. It's just in the DNA of this game, and it's so good. So I never knew, but there is actually a Parasite Eve movie, and when I was researching for this video, I found that out and listened to the soundtrack for that. That soundtrack is done by the legendary Joe Hisaishi. Probably butchered that name. He's known for a ton of other work with like Studio Ghibli stuff. So this film came out a year before the game, and the soundtrack, you can definitely hear a similarity to the Parasite Eve game soundtrack. So I feel like Yoko definitely took inspiration from that. I definitely suggest checking out the film soundtrack if you're a fan of the game's soundtrack. It's unbelievably good. There's a lot of elements from the film soundtrack that play into the game soundtrack, just in terms of vibe and the approach, whether that be with the piano or even some of the pad sounds. All right, now we're gonna get into some of the gear that was used, or I presume was used. Here's a photo taken, I have no idea when, what appears to be the Korg Trinity. And then you got your kind of Roland JV series, probably the 2080 or the 1080. But you can see a whole plethora of gear there. So when I was preparing to film this video, like finding the sounds and such, I was using the Korg Triton VST, which I believe was the newer version of the Trinity, basically the same line. So there's some shared DNA there with some of the sounds and samples, as well as just the layout. But as of like a couple of hours ago, I found out there is actually indeed a Trinity VST that's available by Korg. And so I managed to find quickly a few other sounds. I also used the Roland Sound Canvas VA plugin by Roland. That has a bunch of libraries and samples from the SC88 and down. Those are kind of the three ones I'm speculating that were used. But but it's not confirmed, of course. If you have any information, please do let me know. There was definitely some sampling going on as well, and some of the ones that I found or I got close with were the 0G Total Drum Bass, the Spectrasonics Symphony of Voices, and Distorted Reality 2. So those were a few of the sample CDs that I managed to find some familiar sounds on. It's all speculation at the end of the day, and we're doing this for fun. So if you haven't seen any of my videos before, I just go through a few of the sounds that I was able to recreate, or maybe actually find the actual sounds that were used, and I kind of just show off each patch. But I did do a couple of the Resident Evil games in this series, so if you haven't checked those videos out, go give them a watch. All right, guys, let's jump into Ableton and check out some of the sounds that I was able to find or recreate. Let's go. All right, the first track we're going to start with is one of the first tracks you hear when you start the game. It is Waiting for Something to Awaken, and it's that main piano sound, which is heard throughout a bunch of other tracks as well. First, I'll play the sound, and then I'll go through the actual patch. Yeah, pretty close. I think that's it. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but hey, close enough for me. Now, it's obviously missing that hiss, whether that be from the board that they're going through, or it's got that white noise hiss a bit more to it. So for this sound, I use the Korg Triton because it has a patch for the Trinity. Now, I forget what the patch was called, but I think it was just called Trinity Grand. The sample used in oscillator 1 for this sound is piano TR, which I assume means Trinity, could be Triton. The main part of this piano sound, it has a tight release as well as reverb, and then the auto panning delay is the main effect. And these are the settings I used, and I think it's pretty close. So that's that main piano sound. I also managed to come up with something that was very similar to the vocal kind of pad you hear in the background of this track. So yeah, it's pretty close. It's definitely in this library, I believe. The actual sound is Vocalscape. Yeah, those are the two sounds I found for Waiting for Something to Awaken. All right, next up, we're going to be doing the opera vocals, the synth opera vocals that you hear throughout the game. One of the most iconic elements of this game. And I managed to get pretty close. So I used the Spectrasonic sample CD Symphony of Voices, which was also used on Silent Hill 3, fun fact. Actually, the same patch of sounds was the same. The sample is tenor P, and it's A sharp 4. So I just started the sample here a bit late, just before the 2-second mark. Added some reverb, brought in a lot of attack, and I'll just show this off. So check this out. So yeah, I think it's pretty close. That it's not confirmed if that's what they used. Did they use a real opera sample? I don't know, but there's not many options when it comes to opera vocals that I could find from that time period, other than the Spectrasonics Symphony of Voices, which I believe came out the year prior, 97 or so. And again, the type of sampler you use really makes a difference in the sound. I'm just using the stock Ableton sampler. I'm using the Warp Mode Pro and adjusting some of the format and envelope settings here. Now, if you're using an actual sampler machine, it has different technology it uses to manipulate the sound, depending on the BPM and such. So that also has an effect on how the sample is played. Pretty happy with how that turned out. Let me know what you guys think. All right, next up, we're doing one of the most iconic songs from the game, Out of Phase. All right, it's that track you hear at the police station. Just a classic song, such a banger. Kind of has some like Silent Hill vibes. Just, it's got that trip hop electronica kind of groove to it. So first up, we're doing the main element of the song, which is the kalimba that you hear playing, kind of like the finger drum. You can get close with the Triton, but once I downloaded the Trinity, I think the sample is a bit different, and that's the one they used. But all right, so the kalimba sound on the Trinity is called Natural Kalimba, is the patch, and the actual sound is just kalimba. Maybe the reverb could be a bit better, but then you got the bass sound in that. I believe this 4-pole bass on the 1080 is what was used, and you can kind of hear it pulsing away there. So I don't think this is the sound that was used, but you can get pretty close with the dawning sound from Spectrasonic's Distorted Reality 2. And here's that part. I don't think that's it, but it's still fun to throw that in there. A lot of those pad samples can sound very similar. Obviously, this is the Silent Hill 2 one, is what it's known for, but it sounds pretty similar. So throughout this game, there's tons of drum and bass type samples. I was only able to find one of them from the 0G Total Drum Bass sample CD, and it's this sample called Barbarian. It's from Influence of Deep, the CM version. A little bit further into the track, you hear these drums playing in a certain sequence. I'll play the actual sample here. So yeah, it's layered with a few other drum samples. This track's crazy with the opera vocals over top of drum and bass. It's super unique, super, super cool. But that's just an example of the types of break beats that you can hear throughout the soundtrack. All right, we're gonna do the string sounds for the track Overture that you hear. Here's what I came up with. I just used the sound canvas. I don't know if this is actually what it was, but it sounds pretty close to me. If you layer this, you get really close to it. So here it is. If you were to layer this with a couple more instances of the strings, I think you're pretty much close to that sound. So, all right, here's another string sound. I use the Roland sound canvas again, and this time the patch is slow strings, and it's for Gloom and Doom. Alright guys, that's basically it for this video. Just a couple of sounds that I was able to find either via research on the internet or just by searching myself. But if you have any information about what was used, please do share. I'm pretty sure the Korg Trinity was kind of the main element, but hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys thought. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. If you want to see more stuff like this, do let me know. Maybe leave a suggestion for another game title you'd want me to explore some of the sounds of. I'm having a lot of fun doing this series, and this is the first non-Resident Evil game I've done for this style of video. So yeah, leave some suggestions of other games in this genre that you would like to see more of the sound design elements explored. All right guys, until next time, peace.